You truly should have received a proper spanking as a child, Alfred sighed. Would you have liked for my grandmother to end your life? You know she hates it when someone touches her precious grandson, said Edgar. Not even he would be able to save Alfred from his grandmother. Your grandmother isn't one to hold back from spanking you herself. I would have made a complaint to her and let her deal with it. Duchess, you should be stern with your children so they do not come out like this, Alfred said, pointing at Edgar, who smiled. That's amusing to hear since you have called me perfect many times. Besides, children are meant to be a bit troublesome in their youth. I was simply a normal child. You are always too dramatic, Alfred. Normal children would break a rule or two, do something they shouldn't, like take a cookie when it is not time for it. But you made it your job to torture others. You were never normal, said Alfred as he shook his head. And after all of that, you couldn't help staying away from me. That is how wonderful I am. Or perhaps you enjoyed being stressed. I am starting to pity you, Edgar said, taking pleasure in Alfred's annoyed expression. I am curious. Alessandra entered the conversation. What made you stick by Edgar's side despite him being so troublesome? I asked him earlier why you have never started your own family. Well, I can say he was not always doing something bad, and there were moments when I enjoyed being around him. I disliked how alone he was when he was left with his mother, and then I would overhear the letters he would send to his mother about wanting to come home from that awful school. He needed someone. So I made up my mind to be that person. Taking care of him was a handful, so I never sought after my own child, and there was no woman I met to start one with. Alfred remembered making up his mind to be by Edgar's side when Edgar had been left alone by his mother, who set out to visit one of her friends and did not want to take Edgar with her. He remembered Edgar standing alone by the window, watching his mother leave. It was the first time he saw how lonely Edgar was, with his mother constantly attending parties or sending him off to a school he disliked, and his father always in court. There was a point in time when Edgar wished to be close to his parents, but neither had the time for him, and realized too late how much distance Edgar had placed between them. Edmund only started to be around Edgar more when Edgar started to make a name for himself and was in the palace regularly. Priscilla took an interest when it came to Edgar marrying, or when Rose would try taking her son. It is too late for me to start a family now, and I have not knocked anyone up, Alfred said, looking directly at Edgar as he clarified this. What would he look like having a child at this age? Certainly, a woman around his age would not be looking to have children this late. I prefer the life I have now, and I do not regret a second of it. I always thought you perhaps liked men and kept to yourself as there was no man who caught your eye, said Edgar. I am only fond of women, Alfred replied, tempted to smack Edgar on his hand to shut him up. I should have retired sooner. I've sent out a notice that you are looking for a butler, and I will conduct the interview with those wanting the job tomorrow after I have returned home, said Alfred. Where are you going? Edgar inquired. Alfred would always leave home around this time of year and never say where he was going. Running away now that you are no longer the butler? If only. I am going to visit an old friend who passed away a long time ago. I won't be gone for long, Alfred answered. I should consider taking this moment to get far away from you. And I shall hunt you down and drag you back to my side. You've made a promise to be here. Therefore, you cannot run away now. In case you haven't heard, another young woman was found today. Women are the only ones being taken, but you should still be careful during your time out. The town must have heard the news by now and will become rowdy. Take a guard with you, Edgar said. There was also the fact that his enemies could try harming Alfred if they were to spot him alone. I will be fine. I am still a good fighter at this age. I will return home safe and sound tomorrow. Besides, Sally will be joining me on the way to and back from town, so I will not be alone. Now, why is it taking so long for the food to come out? Alfred asked, looking in the direction of the kitchen. Had he been taking control of dinner, Alessandra and Edgar would not be sitting this long without food. Give me a moment. Sit down, old man. Edgar pinned Alfred's left hand to the table to stop him from leaving. It is you who is in need of a spanking to get old habits out of you. Keep still, or I shall send for a stick. Alfred sat still, not because of the threat of being beaten with a stick, but of Edgar calling him old. Edgar, never call me an old man again, or I shall make the Duchess a widow. Alessandra bit her lip to refrain from laughing. There were now 3 ways to make Alfred angry. 1, dirty the floors. 2, break his plates. 3, call him an old man. She wasn't surprised to see Edgar's smile widen upon hearing Alfred's threat. She watched him open his mouth, most likely to say it again, but she stopped him by squeezing his hand. If you wished to hold my hand, you only had to ask, Edgar said, flipping their hands so he was holding her. Alessandra tried to pull back her hand, but Edgar's grip was too strong for her to fight out of. I was not trying to hold your hand, and you know it. I was trying to stop you from bothering Alfred. Please let go of my hand, Edgar. No, thank you. I am quite comfortable like this, he replied, sticking out his tongue slightly to piss her off. Seeing her nostrils flare and her glare at him were both exciting. If not for Alfred and the servants present, he would make up for the opportunity he missed from them not bathing together and having a good time with her here at the table. Alessandra sighed, giving up, as it was pointless to try fighting Edgar in this matter. She relaxed her hand, letting Edgar do as he pleased for now. As soon as the food was served, he would have to let her go. A few minutes later, after the food was placed before them, Alessandra frowned due to the fact Edgar had not released her hand. Alfred ate in silence, happy that Edgar's attention was shifted from him to Alessandra, and he wanted it to stay there. He tried to eat as quickly as possible without choking, to be able to leave the table and give the two some privacy. Anything to have the little one he was looking forward to arriving soon. Please release my hand. How are we supposed to cut our meat? Alessandra asked. Like this. Edgar snapped his fingers. The maid standing behind the two of them stepped forward. Cut the meat for the Duchess and I. Problem solved. Alessandra wanted to smack her face because Edgar solved the matter already. Why did he always need to have a solution to everything? She felt Edgar squeeze her hand as if mocking her failed attempt to be released. The maid worked fast to cut the meat and go back to the sidelines to get away from the couple. The Duchess looked like she would jump out of her chair to strangle the Duke, and, not surprisingly, after the interactions she watched between the couple, the Duke was grinning as he awaited it happening. No one would ever believe her if she spoke of this playful side Edgar Collins had. Good night, you two, Alfred said as he pushed his chair back. You could not have eaten that fast. Do not leave me alone with him, Alfred. At least help me get my hand back, Alessandra pleaded. Nonsense. Sleep well tonight, Alfred. Hurry out of here. Edgar shooed him away. He wanted Alfred to hurry out of the room so he would be alone with Alessandra. Everyone out, he ordered the servants present in the dining room. Do not step foot in this dining room for an hour, he said. Or 2, he added after glancing at Alessandra. Alfred made his grand escape out of the dining room. The servants started to move, but were stopped by another order. Everyone stay, Alessandra gave the order. This is my home too, therefore they must listen to my order. They are not going anywhere, Edgar, so please release me. Edgar ran his tongue along the tip of his teeth. Seeing Alessandra use her authority was quite enticing. Just this once. He released her hand. The next day, Alfred and Sally set out in a carriage given to them by Edgar. Why does it seem like you are scared? Are you afraid to visit your parents? No, I'm afraid of when you will start lecturing me about being a maid or my non-existent relationship with Caleb, Sally thought. On the outside, she forced a smile and replied, Sort of. Living apart from them must make you nervous about how they are doing. The moment you see them, your worries shall fade away. You can relax your shoulders around me, as I am no longer the butler. I am not going to scold you, said Alfred, knowing that was what she was afraid of. That does not make me feel better. I am used to running to you for anything concerning the Duchess, but now you are part of the family. I cannot speak to you like before. It is odd, Sally admitted. Another line was drawn between them, which made it harder for her to speak to Alfred sometimes. There were times when they would randomly find themselves speaking about the things Alessandra and Edgar were doing. But now that he was retired and named a family member, she had to treat him differently. All the servants had to. It won't be long before I am given my old job. Edgar will see that there is no one good enough to replace me, and if he does not, I will still act as the butler behind his back. There are many times when he is out of the house for days. He is only around because of his marriage to Alessandra. I don't understand. Anyone would be happy with the position Edgar has offered you, but yet you want to return to being a butler. I would have taken the chance to be a part of the family, no questions asked, said Sally, as she would no longer need to worry about money. There is a difference in our lives. You work as a maid because you are in need of money. You would most likely jump at another type of work if it guaranteed more money. I, on the other hand, love being a butler. I have no need to care about money, as it has not been an issue since I was a young boy. I love my job. Money doesn't matter when you love what you do, Alfred explained. That makes sense. I hope that one day I can find myself in a position where money does not matter, and I am doing something that makes me happy. First, I need to take care of my family. Have you ever figured that your parents are not in need of you taking care of them? They must be suffering from the guilt of seeing you constantly work and putting them before what you want. I do not know what is going on in your life, but try to be happy. I have grown fond of you and wish to see you happy, even if it is with Caleb, Alfred added, as he was certain the two would get together and make things awkward for Alessandra with their relationship. Sally frowned. They were doing so well up until Caleb was brought up. I do not plan on being in a relationship with Caleb or fooling around with him. I do not know why everyone seems to think that I will. I find him to be annoying. It wasn't long ago that Edgar was adamant about not getting married. And now look at him. Happily married and doing things I never thought I would see. We can never truly predict what we will do tomorrow. Just make sure it does not hinder your job as the Duchess's maid, said Alfred. He was okay with everyone's decisions, unless they would get in the way of doing their jobs. Noted. This is my stop. I will see you in 3 hours, Sally said, opening the door herself since the coachman would not come out to do it for her. Not that she wanted him to. Alfred looked out at the average-sized home. It wasn't anywhere as grand as Edgar's, but it was evident the person here got to enjoy a life without hard labor. Why didn't Sally's aunt take her under her wing and help her get married to a decent young man? The marriage would have paid back any money she would need to spend on Sally. He watched Sally reluctantly walk to the gates, as if she was only doing it because he was present. Alfred had not ordered for the carriage to move yet, since he wanted to ensure she had gotten inside safely, since it was not safe for young women these days. But to relieve her nervousness, he tapped the carriage wall for it to start moving. Alfred finally understood why Alessandra thought there was something going on in Sally's life. It was unfortunate they could not meddle, as it could push Sally away. Alfred opened up a book he had brought along to read on his way to town. He would never admit to Edgar that it was refreshing to be out like this, reading a book he was yet to finish. I should see if there are any new tea mixes in town, he said. There was so much he could do to occupy himself now that he was without a job, like planning out a little garden for himself for when winter would come to an end. And he could also look for a spot to teach young men how to be good butlers. After a long ride, Alfred arrived at a graveyard just outside of town. He sent the carriage away so the driver would not be bored out of his mind waiting for him, and it would only take a minute to walk to the area in town where a lot of shopping was done. Like he did every year, Alfred came to pay a visit to an old friend who had unfortunately passed many years ago, a woman who shared the same passion as he did when it came to her job. She had no family to visit her grave, so he promised to pay to keep her grave clean and visit every year on her birthday. Alfred stooped down before the grave, covered in snow and slightly large rocks that were not there on his last visit. Someone had to have placed them on the grave to get them out of the way. No one in this town knows how to do their job, he muttered as he cleared the grave. The name Lucille Waller was shown after the snow was wiped away. I wonder if you would find a way to come back to this world and scream at me if I placed down a flower, Alfred chuckled. He remembered her stating how she hated to see flowers placed on graves, and while she awaited death, she told him not to bring her any flowers because it was pointless. I hope you are happy wherever you are. Happy birthday, Lucille. He had excluded Lucille from his answer to Alessandra's question. The woman for him was long gone, and there would never be another for him to settle down with. Alfred looked forward to meeting Lucille in the afterlife, or, as some would say, another life. Alfred stood up now that he was finished with her birthday greeting. A simple visit was all she wanted, and now the promise was fulfilled. He adjusted his coat and walked out of the graveyard to head to town to find something to let the hours go by until it was time to collect Sally and go back home. Alfred walked the street, happy to see that young women were out with chaperones instead of walking around town by themselves. News of another body led them to be more careful. As soon as he stepped foot into the shopping area, one particular shop caught his eye. I should purchase my own teacups and plates. I need to restock on tea before I start my next book, said Alfred, excited to start a collection he could keep in his room where they would not be broken. As Alfred hurried to enter the shop, he was unaware that someone had noticed his presence in town. Teresa! Priscilla looked to her side at the maid she brought along to carry her items. Find out if my son is in town and come back to me right away. Yes, my lady. Priscilla silently watched the man she detested enter a shop. She should have long gotten rid of Alfred, and now it seemed an opportunity had presented itself. She had a good feeling this morning when she decided to visit the town to do some shopping, and now she knew why. Had she stayed in the shop she was in a second longer, she would have missed the clear view of Alfred walking by. My lady, your son does not appear to be here. So, his butler is alone. Alert Frederick that I am in need of his services right now. If he does not come right away, I shall cut ties with him. Move quickly, Priscilla ordered the maid. I cannot waste this chance. Priscilla stared at the shop Alfred had long entered but not come out of. She hated the sight of him to her very core. It would hurt any mother to see their child care for someone else after the pain she was burdened with to bring Edgar into this world. Alfred had the relationship she wanted to have with Edgar, and if Alfred was out of the picture, perhaps Edgar would cling to her for affection. She barely had her husband, so she should at least have her only child. He won't ever speak to me again if he finds out, she whispered. Priscilla knew her son's anger, and should he ever learn she had harmed Alfred, Edgar would never speak to her ever again, and he loved Alfred enough to kill her. Knowing this only fueled her anger toward Alfred. It was frustrating to be jealous of a man with a status far below her own. On one side, she didn't want to push Edgar farther away, but her jealousy had grown over the years. Priscilla walked towards the shop Alfred had entered, as she wanted to have a word with him. She always wanted to, but Edgar would get in the way. She hoped Alfred would know his place and be willing to leave with money she could offer him. If not, Frederick would have to get rid of him forever. Priscilla entered the shop and was immediately disgusted with the array of herbs and other scents filling her nose. This was a place she would rather send her maid instead of stepping foot in. "Good afternoon, my lady." "Alfred!" Priscilla called to Alfred, who was occupied with whatever he was doing at the counter. Alfred slowly turned around, surprised by Priscilla's sudden presence in the shop. It wasn't a place he expected to meet her. "Mrs. Collins," he greeted her. "Follow me," Priscilla said, turning around to leave the shop. Alfred stared at the door, swinging in after Priscilla left. Of all people, why her? He would rather have a run-in with the person kidnapping all the young women. Alfred looked back at the counter where all the items he picked out were placed. "Please, bag these up for me quickly," he said as he fished through his pocket for money he had brought along. "Yes, sir." This won't be good, Alfred thought. Running into Priscilla never ended well. "Thank you," Alfred said to the shopkeeper after a bag was placed before him. He placed the exact amount of money on the counter and proceeded to leave. Before he exited the shop, something else caught his eye. "Add this, too." He picked up the item and went back to the counter. Less than a minute later, Alfred exited the shop and was greeted by Priscilla, who was not the slightest bit happy with how long he had kept her waiting. Priscilla only stood outside because she did not want him to run away from her. She walked across the street to where all the carriages were parked and stepped into her own with the help of her coachman. Alfred entered the carriage behind her, sitting where the latch to open the carriage door was. Priscilla looked outside the window at a woman walking with a little girl. "I had Edgar too young. I was hardly ready, but it was needed. Still, there's nothing better than being a mother, and I have placed great opportunities before Edgar to make sure he would be far above his peers. He is always the talk of the town, and there are so many eligible young women wanting to marry him. But my plans were interfered with." She wished to wake up and hear Alessandra had somehow disappeared. "Even with my status and good background, it wasn't easy to become a part of the Collins family. So tell me, why should the daughter of a baron get an easy ride?" "I heard that the old woman has taken a liking to her. Why am I not surprised?" Priscilla asked. "If you take a moment to get to know the Duchess, you will see what a good person—" "Good person?" Priscilla chuckled. "That hardly matters in this world. We marry for money and status. That girl had neither. Edgar only benefited tales of him being cursed from this marriage." "Edgar has fallen in love," said Alfred. In his eyes, it was better than anything else Edgar could gain from marriage. "You all think I ruined him. No one wants to point a finger at his father, who was still seeing that woman when I was having a hard time with my pregnancy. Regardless, we had an image to uphold, and Edgar is tarnishing it with his wife. All these years, I put so many resources before him, and he is throwing it all away. That school wasn't cheap." "Edgar hated that school," Alfred interjected, unable to stay silent while she pointed fingers at everyone else. "He detested it, yet you kept sending him back. You needed to listen to—" Do not tell me how to raise my son, Priscilla yelled, angered by the habit he had not gotten rid of. I am his mother, the person who brought him into this world, while you are nothing more than a butler, and that is all you will ever be. Stop telling me what I have done wrong with Edgar. It is not your place. You have made it hard for me to have a relationship with Edgar, and you act all innocent. Alfred sighed, as this was far from the truth. He had pushed for years to have Edgar repair his relationship with his mother. It put him at odds with Edgar a few times, since he was tired of hearing about this. Edgar had long grown out of his need to have a relationship with his parents, and there was nothing Alfred had done to make him dislike his parents. I know what you did, leaving my home in the middle of the night to take Edgar away from his school and travel to his grandmother. I had never been more degraded in life than when she paid me a visit the day after. Snatching my son away from me and giving him a home to be away from his parents. You took part in that. Be a man and admit it, said Priscilla. I did what was best for the young master. I have not asked for anything for the time I have stuck by your son. I care for him as if he was my own. That is your problem, Priscilla said, tapping against the carriage door as she stared at Alfred. You keep thinking he is your own. I am giving you two choices. One, you pack your belongings and get far away from my son. Or two, I shall make sure you no longer irritate me. Alfred didn't fear Priscilla's threat to end his life. You may not like it when I offer you advice, but I will do it one last time. Once Edgar hates you, it will never go away. If you hurt the people he loves, be it me or his wife, he will not care that you brought him into this world. He will ruin you, and you know it. This is why you are trying to justify whatever you plan to do with this conversation. You are trying to paint me the villain to be guilt-free. I never feel guilty or regret the things I do. I have given you time after time a chance to get out of my sight. I can no longer watch you stand where I want to be. Alfred gripped the bag in his hands. If I were to die today, it would not fix the relationship you have with Edgar. It is best to work with me to mend it before all hope is lost. It was never my intention to take your son away from you. I only wanted him to be happy. I'm afraid you just lost one of the two people who could have helped you. I do not take well to my life being threatened, nor do I like thinking about the state Edgar would be left in if I were to die before my time. I have little ones to take care of, Alfred said with a smile. No one is going to take that away from me, and I will not ruin the happiness he has with his wife. I am no longer a butler. Your son has made it clear I am a part of the family, and went as far as to fire me. Priscilla was stunned by this news. How could Edgar do such a thing? Send whoever you wish, but I am not dying today. Have a good day, Alfred said, then opened the carriage door to get out. You don't need to visit us in this weather, Sally. I don't want you to get sick, and your employer might not keep you around if you're sick. Sally didn't see Alessandro firing her if she became sick. If I were to fall sick, I think the Duchess would try nursing me back to health. Dorothy Wilkinson, Sally's mother, shook her head. The world doesn't work that way. They are nice until they see you cannot work as they want you to. You seem to have a good job going for you. Try your best not to worry about us and live a happy life. I cannot just forget about my parents. I am making good money, and I will soon take care of both of you. It is my way to repay you for taking care of me from the moment I was born. I will get us a house. The Duke has offered me a space on his land if I... Sally, Adam Wilkinson, her father, cut in. There is always a reason behind these people's actions. You'll find yourself in debt if you take his offer. I have been around men like the Duke. No offense, Father, but the men you have been around are nothing like Edgar Collins. He would have mentioned a catch if there was any. He is not the type to hide if there would be something I must pay. I've been around him more than you to not be concerned, said Sally. Adam feared Sally was too trusting of the people she worked for. He found it odd that the Duchess gave her the coat she now wore just so she could be out of the cold, and he had seen an expensive-looking carriage dropping her off. Sally, you are not having an affair with the Duke, right? This would make more sense than the Duke just choosing to be kind to his daughter. Men with high status fooling around with maids behind their wives' backs was nothing new. He once had many friends who would tell him their scandalous tales, and he was almost tempted in the past. Sally almost choked on her spit. Father! She exclaimed, as his assumption was ridiculous. The last thing I shall ever do is sleep with a man for money. The Duke is handsome and wealthy, but he is quite scary. Besides, I have a good relationship with his wife, and I don't want to be a homewrecker. That's good to hear. This family does not need to be sullied anymore, said Judith Norman. She had been listening to the conversation of the small family. Sally frowned, annoyed with her aunt joining them. The woman was always looking for trouble and to remind them of their fallen household. I have to say that I am a bit surprised that you have not subjected yourself to selling your body or any other measures to regain the life you once had. I don't need you causing trouble for your parents, and most importantly, me. I'd hate to have to turn my back on the three of you, Judith said with a smile lingering on her lips. She loved being in control. Her brother was once the golden child, but now look at him and his family. Their mother must be rolling around in her grave. Judith would pay a large sum of money to see her mother's reaction to Adam losing everything. I will not ruin what is left of our name. I am working hard, Aunt Judith. There will soon come a time when we will no longer need your help, said Sally. Dorothy nudged Sally, urging her to keep quiet. Your aunt has been kind enough to let us stay with her in a desperate time in our life. What did I say that was wrong? Sally asked, as she only mentioned not needing help in the future. I fear you are the only one who was never appreciative of the things I have done for your family. I didn't have to take you in, but I did, from the kindness of my heart. Sally scoffed, not falling for her aunt's lackluster performance. You didn't do it because you were kind. You did it because you wanted to make my parents your servants. Then, for some reason, you detest me so much that I was not given a chance to be with my parents and had to seek shelter elsewhere. You do not have a kind heart, so save the act. Sally, Adam spoke up, but Judith was quick to cut him off. You rotten little girl. I always warned my brother not to spoil you, and now look how you have turned out. Never be grateful for the things others do for your family. I do not detest you. I have no reason to hate you, Judith replied. Sally literally had nothing but the rags she cleaned with. I have a feeling the only reason you didn't take me in and try to make money off of a potential marriage was that you didn't want your daughter, who is now at the age to marry, to be upstaged by your niece, who has nothing. If you were kind, you would treat your brother's family better. Judith silenced Sally with a slap. I have had enough of you and these ridiculous claims. Judith, how could you lay a hand on my daughter? Adam snapped at his sister. He was in need of her help, so he put up with her treatment toward him, but his wife and daughter were where he drew the line. There was no need for things to get physical. Dorothy inspected the forming red mark on Sally's cheek. This was why she was fine with Sally just sending them letters instead of coming to see them. It was hard enough to put up with Judith treating her like a slave, but now Sally was slapped. Sally, please go, she urged her daughter. Do not return. Letters are just fine, sweetheart. Sally felt helpless for not being able to make her parents leave with her now. She had nowhere to take her family if she were to make them follow her. She never wanted to use her closeness with Alessandra for personal matters. At the rate she was saving money for a home, her parents would be with her aunt for much longer than she wanted them to be. I have to stop being stubborn, Sally realized. She had a good offer she could no longer turn down. Sally hoped that after how much she had been avoiding Caleb, he would still be open to lending her his home. The problem now was convincing her parents to come with her. They would think Caleb was only offering his home to get something out of her, just like she had assumed, so she had to be one step ahead of them. Sally hugged her mother and whispered in her ear, I will return for you soon. Dorothy, get me a drink, Judith said to separate the mother and daughter. Do not return, Sally. I will get the drink, Dorothy replied to Judith before hurrying inside, before the woman could get angry again. She was patiently waiting for life to hit Judith with karma and to make her realize that she could one day end up helpless too. Sally began to walk out the gates without telling her father goodbye. If she were to stay any longer, she would get into another argument with her aunt. She knew her aunt would take her frustration out on her parents since she was now leaving. Her aunt would even go as far as to throw her parents out onto the cold street, and Sally would not have any way of knowing if it happened because there would be no one to inform her. Sally looked up and down the street for a sign of Alfred returning with the carriage. He was more than an hour late, which started to concern her as he would always be on time and lecture the maids about timing. Not wanting to be close to her aunt, Sally started to walk the lone road until she would come across a carriage to pay to take her to the Collins estate.